Natasha and Her Illegitimate Child in a Muslim Society. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. Book 1. This is an intriguing epic story which resonates with love, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Before we dive into the tapestry of the story, I would like to inform the reader this novel is narrated in 2 books. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs for a review to be printed in a public newspaper, general magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on the real life of a Muslim family. All names, characters, places, and events are either the product of the author's imagination or used literary. Therefore, any resemblance to real people, living or dead, events or locales, is merely coincidental. Chapter 30. The Trial of Hate Crime. Muslim community is not like any other religious community in the world. It is like a group of soldiers in a military base or members of a gang. No individual soldier or gangster has the right to make his own decision and follow it. So, a Muslim like a gangster could not forsake Islam or his gang and expect to live. He would be tracked down and killed as a Muslim apostate or traitor. For that reason, the individual Muslim has no right to decide which religion he or she can follow. When a person is born a Muslim, he has to live and die as a Muslim whether he likes it or not. Muslims treat forsaking their religion and embracing another religion as high treason against Islam and the Islamic community. There is nothing more a Muslim could commit and bring the wrath of his people on him than apostatizing from Islam. The Sharia prescribed the death penalty to an apostate, and his body is not allowed to be buried in either the Muslim graveyard or the Christian cemetery. It is to be burned with fire just like a carcass of an animal. The Prophet Muhammad said in one of his authentic hadiths, "Whoever forsakes his religion, kill him." Therefore, Muslims have no choice but to kill the person who left their Islamic community and embraced a new religion. Usually, the Muslim apostate would be killed by his own parents or relatives before his abominable deed would reach the Sharia court. Honor killing is an obligation on the family members of the girl that brings shame by having sex before marriage or sleeping with another man while she is married, whereas the killing of an apostate is a religious obligation to the entire Muslim community. As an example, we could refer to the case of the Egyptian Muslim liberal thinker, Faraj Foda. He was declared an apostate from Islam by a Muslim scholar from Al-Azhar al-Sharif University, and a fatwa was issued by the same scholar permitting the shedding of his blood. Consequently, a couple of Muslim men gunned down Faraj Foda in front of his office in Cairo. The assassination of Faraj Foda became an obligation on the entire Muslim community, but carried out by those 2 Muslim men. Accordingly, Natasha's decision to convert from Islam to Christianity kindled an unquenchable fire in the hearts of the members of the entire Muslim community in the city of Calgary. The only way to quench that fire or appease the anger that filled the hearts of the Sudanese Muslims is to bring Natasha back to Islam or to put her to death. Some Sudanese who believe that their hearts moved by righteous wrath approached Dr. Shams al-Din and informed him that his Muslim granddaughter began to attend the Christian church in regular basis, and they are afraid that that accursed Sudanese apostate priest might have already brainwashed her and taken her out of the Muslim community of Ibrahim and made her an accursed apostate like him. Dr. Shams al-Din responded to them the same way he responded to Pastor Wahid when he informed him that his granddaughter wanted to obtain a copy of the Bible. He told them religion is like marriage, and therefore such an important decision must be decided by the individual and not the family or the community. Those angry Sudanese Muslims rejected the philosophy of Dr. Shams al-Din and quoted the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad that forbids conversion and prescribes the death penalty to any Muslim man or woman who crosses that red line. Dr. Shams al-Din ignored the religious authority that they referred to and said to them his granddaughter is matured enough to make her personal decisions in life. At once, Dr. Shams al-Din himself has been declared an infidel in front of his face and equated with his apostatized daughter. The decision of Natasha and the response of her guardian reached the ears of the highest Islamic religious authority in the city of Calgary. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din became exceedingly outraged when he heard that a Muslim girl has been brainwashed by the accursed Sudanese apostatized priest, left the Islamic community, and embraced the religion of the infidels. He believes that if he does not do something about it, other young Muslim youth might follow her bad example and forsake the religion of Muhammad. At first, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din decided to deal legally with such serious religious matters. He already heard that Pastor Wahid had invited an apostatized Sudanese professor from the USA and gave him a platform to revile and ridicule the religion of Islam. Therefore, he determined to take Pastor Wahid as well as the Sudanese professor to court on the charges of spreading hate crime. He expected that if Pastor Wahid is found guilty of hate crime, then his church would be shut down and his license to be a religious leader would be revoked. With that religious indignation filling his heart, the spiritual leader of the Muhajirin has contacted a Pakistani Muslim lawyer and requested him to file a complaint against Pastor Wahid Muhammad Ahmed and Dr. Abdul Rahman Ahmed, the professor of religious studies at the University of Chicago, for preaching religious hatred toward Islam and Muslims. In the lawsuit, the Pakistani lawyer stated that the Sudanese professor accused Islam as the religion of terror and Muslim men as terrorists and oppressors of their women. Based on that hate speech, one of the Sudanese young Muslim girls was brainwashed, deceived, and made to believe that Islam was a religion of terror and Muslim men treat their women as animals or lower than brutes. Because of such hate speech, that young Muslim girl forsook her religion, began to attend the church of Pastor Wahid, and became a Christian. Worse than that, after that public hate speech, many young Muslim boys and girls accused by their fellow students that they were following an evil religion that taught terror and oppression of women. Consequently, some Muslim girls got their hijabs snatched from their heads by some kids at their schools. Furthermore, in the lawsuit, the Muslim lawyer included several quotes from the testimony of Professor Ahmed. He carefully selected some inflammatory words of the professor, quoted them out of context, and used them as evidence for the charges of hate crime. Unfortunately, when Pastor Wahid appeared in court, he was still young in age, had no experience with the matters of the law, and had no means of appointing a lawyer to fight against that malicious Islamic religious leader, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. He was not able to refute those charges of hate speech against the professor whom he invited to speak in his church. The court found him guilty of providing a platform for a guest speaker who malignantly preached hate crime against Islam and Muslims in a public gathering in the city of Calgary. The court forbade him from holding in future any such public meeting and provided a platform for that kind of hate speech. But the court could not condemn Pastor Wahid personally because the lawsuit did not include a single reference to his sermons in which he supposedly had attacked Islam or accused all Muslims as terrorists. For that reason, the court did neither shut down his church nor revoke his religious certificate of being a recognized religious leader. The outcome of that hate speech crime was not satisfactory to Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. He could not be able to succeed in shutting down Pastor Wahid's church or stopping him from being a spiritual leader. In the meantime, the apostate Natasha continued to attend the Sudanese and Arabic churches and learning more about her new faith. When he failed to deal with her case in the legal way, Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din decided to use his other evil ways. Chapter 31. Character Assassination. In the meantime, the friendship between Natasha Shams al-Din and Pastor Wahid Muhammad Ahmed grew stronger and became open love affair after Natasha boldly confessed her conversion from Islam to Christianity and began to attend the church. Everyone in the church came to know about their love affair. Pastor Wahid and Natasha began to meet outside the church and spend time together in public places such as restaurants and parks. Many times, Pastor Wahid picked up Natasha in his car from her college and dropped her in front of her apartment. Although Natasha did not yet inform her grandfather about her affair, still Dr. Shams al-Din had already heard about it when that Sudanese family informed him. At that time, he did not take it seriously. He thought that those envious people had just created their stories because Pastor Wahid is a good friend of his family. He did not expect his granddaughter with her irreligious upbringing would be attracted to a religious person like Pastor Wahid. Although he noticed that the two of them liked each other very much, he considered it a platonic love. After Natasha informed him about her conversion to Christianity, he began to see the seriousness of their relationship. He also noticed that Pastor Wahid became serious in his love. Such a discovery has raised the red flag for Dr. Shams al-Din. He knows that Muslims collectively believe that a Muslim would not forsake his religion unless he got tempted by material gains such as money, visa to the West, or he fell in love with a Christian woman. He anticipated that the Sudanese Muslim community in Calgary might spread that kind of rumor against his granddaughter and Pastor Wahid to spoil their friendship. Therefore, he has prepared his heart for such kind of false allegation if at all it arises. Pastor Wahid Muhammad Ahmed is controlled by the same fear that Dr. Shams al-Din is worried about. He's scared that the Sudanese Muslims might spread bad rumors about him to prevent him from marrying Natasha. Before such a rumor would arise, he decided to approach Natasha's grandfather and betroth her. But he first shared his idea with his girlfriend. Natasha liked the idea and encouraged her lover to go ahead and propose to her from her grandfather. Before Pastor Wahid brought his marriage proposal, some Sudanese Muslims informed her grandfather that his granddaughter is having a love affair with the apostatized Sudanese priest and openly meeting him in public places. When her grandfather asked her about the allegation, Natasha admitted it and told him that she is truly in love with Pastor Wahid, and she met him sometimes in public places and spent time with him. As before, her grandfather told her that she is the one who would decide who would be her life partner, and since she chose Pastor Wahid, he has no objection to it. Unfortunately, before Pastor Wahid could approach Dr. Shams al-Din to betroth his granddaughter, a nasty rumor spread around the city and reached the ears of Natasha and her grandfather. According to that rumor, Pastor Wahid is already a married man and has a Muslim wife and 2 children in Sudan. To obtain a visa to Canada, he pretended to be a Christian and deceived some Christian groups in Khartoum with his fake conversion. Through that group, he was able to obtain admission to a Bible college in Canada. When Dr. Shams al-Din heard that rumor, he refused to believe it, but Natasha took it seriously. She decided to ask Pastor Wahid about it, but her grandfather stopped her. Before Natasha should ask her lover about such a malicious rumor, her grandfather advised her to wait until he investigate the source of it. Dr. Shams al-Din guessed that the source of that rumor would be Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din. He knew that the wicked sheikh had already tried through the court to condemn Pastor Wahid and destroy his church. When he failed through the law, he resorted to that malicious rumor. The evil genius Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din used a method in spreading the evil rumor that even the apostate Natasha and her enlightened grandpa fell in its trap. When Dr. Shams al-Din traced the source of that rumor, he discovered that a Christian Sudanese family had brought it from Khartoum to Calgary. Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din bribed the Christian couple who recently arrived from Khartoum and made them spread that malicious rumor against Pastor Wahid. When Dr. Shams al-Din questioned the couple about the authenticity of the rumor, both husband and wife swore by God that they knew Pastor Wahid personally when he was in Khartoum and attended the same church he used to attend. They said further that he is a married man and had 2 children from his Muslim wife. He has not divorced his wife. His wife and children are receiving financial support from a church in Khartoum. The church is supporting Wahid's family because he is still a student and unemployed in Canada. The Christian husband and wife who have brought the ugly rumor are called Majak and Malaika. The rumor sounded absolutely true that Dr. Shams al-Din and his granddaughter found it hard not to believe it. Natasha is so devastated by the rumor that she began to weep day and night. She stopped going to the church and meeting Pastor Wahid. She even stopped going to her classes. When Pastor Wahid came to visit her, she refused to come out of her room and meet him. She has locked herself inside her room most of the time. Dr. Shams al-Din has become extremely disturbed by the nasty rumor and the condition of his granddaughter, but he found himself helpless to do anything. He knows that if he confronted Pastor Wahid about the news of his Islamic marriage and his wife and their children in Sudan, he would deny it for sure. Besides that, Pastor Wahid has not yet proposed his granddaughter. Somehow, Dr. Shams al-Din convinced his granddaughter to talk to Pastor Wahid. When Natasha questioned her lover about the rumor of having a Muslim wife and children in Khartoum, he strongly denied it. She refused to believe him and accused him of trying to cheat her. She even accused him of being a Muslim undercover and trying to have 2 wives at the same time because his Islamic Sharia is permitting him to practice polygamy. Pastor Wahid wept like a child and pleaded innocent when Natasha accused him of those serious allegations. He begged her grandfather to intervene and rescue their relationship. Unfortunately, instead of trying to save the friendship, the grandfather asked the Sudanese pastor to stop meeting his granddaughter. Dr. Shams al-Din has become fully convinced that Pastor Wahid is an imposter and told his granddaughter to end her relationship with him. He became extremely outraged when Natasha informed him that Pastor Wahid had already impregnated her. Such unbelievable information added salt to injury. Dr. Shams al-Din rebuked his granddaughter for committing such a terrible mistake with someone that had not yet become her husband. Then he went and confronted Pastor Wahid in front of the congregation of his church. He accused him of being an impostor and immoral religious leader. He informed the church elders and the congregation that Pastor Wahid had slept with his granddaughter and made her pregnant of adultery and without the sanctity of the marriage bond. The news of the pregnancy of Natasha by Pastor Wahid shattered his religious integrity and led the elders of the church to force him to step down. They considered him to be no longer capable of ministering to others. Instead, he needs to be counseled to. It is a total disaster for Pastor Wahid. Even the Campus Crusade Board of Directors kicked him out from his position when they came to know about the rumor of his marriage in Sudan and his illicit relation with Natasha Shams al-Din and made her pregnant out of the wedlock. The Muslim apostate pastor Wahid Muhammad Ahmed was not be able to take the huge disaster that suddenly wrecked everything he held dear and precious in his life. In a twinkling of an eye, he lost his beloved Natasha, his position in the church, and his job with Campus Crusade. Even his reputation in the Bible college became at stake, and his name among the Sudanese community has been dragged to the sewer. Pastor Wahid is prepared to tolerate every loss except for the loss of his beloved Natasha. He loves her with every iota of his being, the love that Natasha gave him in those few months he had never experienced in all his life. In her, he found the love that he longed for from childhood. For the first time, he found someone is genuinely loving him. When he understood that Natasha had rejected him and left him forever, he decided to end his life. The dejected and socially and religiously condemned pastor swallowed in one time many medical painkiller pills and has ended his own life. Chapter 32. Investigating the Nasty Rumor. Frankly speaking, Pastor Wahid did not make Natasha pregnant on purpose. It was beyond his ability to resist her sexy body, and also it was beside her ability to control her strong sexual desire. As a matter of fact, it was Natasha who took the initiative and seduced her lover until he made love with her. Being a novice Christian, Natasha believes that lovers should have sex before marriage to find out whether they are sexually compatible or not. She learned that idea from her irreligious and atheist friends in school before she became a Christian believer. So, with that pagan notion in her mind, one day she invited her boyfriend to her apartment when her grandfather was not there. The lovers started by passionate kissing and hugging each other. Pastor Wahid struggled against his strong desire for making love to his beloved. Natasha was not able to control herself, took the initiative, and began to make love with him. Even the holiest saint in the world would not control himself if he were placed in that seductive situation of "can you please take me to bed" temptation. Natasha has a sexy body that can tempt the holiest saint in the world if he sees her half-naked, and her big breasts and large buttocks are fully exposed to the maximum effect. In addition, her extremely beautiful face, long hair, and sexy eyes make things more difficult to resist her seduction. Her sweet voice is another temptation. Due to that, Pastor Wahid found himself being carried away by Natasha's irresistible feminine beauty and sexy body and his uncontrollable passion for her, and yielded to her strong desire to make love with him. It happened only once, and he decided never to repeat it again until both got married. Natasha apologized to him after their first lovemaking and promised him that she would not put him in such a tantalizing situation again. She also promised that she would not tell anyone about it. After committing that terrible mistake, Pastor Wahid went on bended knees, repented with many tears, and begged God to forgive him. He made a solemn vow to God that he would never touch Natasha again until she would become his lawful wife. That innocent lovemaking would have remained hidden in the hearts of those genuine lovers if that wicked Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din did not come up with that malicious rumor. After his suicidal attempt, Pastor Wahid has been rushed to the hospital after he is found unconscious in his room at his residence. It is a mere coincidence that one of his friends from college came to visit him. He is shocked when he finds his friend lying half dead in his house. Immediately, the classmate dialed 911 and reported his suicidal attempt. It happened to be that the doctor in charge that day was one of his church members. The doctor has been able to force Pastor Wahid's unconscious body to vomit out all those pills he swallowed. Fortunately, his life is saved. When he is revived, Pastor Wahid saw his beloved Natasha and her grandfather standing in front of his bed. At first, he thought he was hallucinating from the strong impact of those pills he took in, but the sweet voice of his beloved and her lovely face assured him that he was still alive. Natasha and her grandfather were informed by the same friend of Pastor Wahid about his suicidal attempt. So, they rushed to the hospital to see him. After his life is rescued and regained his consciousness, they blamed him for trying to take his life. When Natasha heard the news about her lover's suicidal attempt, she felt terribly guilty. She regretted her hasty decision to inform her grandpa about her pregnancy. She knew and understood that she as well is to be blamed for that huge mistake. She confessed her mistake and convinced her grandfather that she was the one to be blamed for that pregnancy and not her lover. She explained to him how Pastor Wahid resisted her desire of making love with him that evening. She blamed herself for inviting him to her apartment when she knew that no one was there. When he came in and discovered that her grandfather was not at home, he decided to leave immediately, but she forced him to stay. Simply put, Natasha admitted that she was the one who lured Pastor Wahid, and for that reason, she is feeling guilty for what had happened to him because of her mistake. His suicidal attempt somehow convinced his beloved and her grandfather that Pastor Wahid is a victim of an evil, malignant conspiracy. After they left the hospital, Dr. Shams al-Din promised his granddaughter that he would travel to Khartoum and investigate the truthfulness or falsehood of that rumor of her lover's Muslim wife and 2 children. Before he flew to Sudan, Dr. Shams al-Din advised his granddaughter not to inform anyone about his trip, but he encouraged her to visit Pastor Wahid in the hospital and be beside him until he would overcome that suicidal mood. He told her not to make any promise or commitment to him of love or marriage until he would find out whether he had a wife and 2 children in Sudan or not. Further, Dr. Shams al-Din decided not only to investigate the rumor of the marriage, but also to visit the Muslim family of Pastor Wahid and find out whether he is truly converted from Islam to Christianity or not. He expects that if he is lying about his conversion, he will not inform his family about it. Pastor Wahid had already informed Natasha and her grandfather about his name when he was a Muslim, his parents' names, his tribe, and the name of the village where he was born and brought up. According to his testimony, his name before his conversion is Omar. His parents are Muhammad Ahmed and Fatima. He is from the tribe of the Jalaya, and his village's name is Shahaba at the outskirts of Khartoum. He was a student at Khartoum University, and he used to be an active member of the notorious Islamic terrorist group of the Muslim Brotherhood. While her grandfather is away, Natasha continued to visit Pastor Wahid in the hospital until he got discharged. Before his discharge, Pastor Wahid had been seen by a psychiatrist. After assessing his psychological condition, the psychiatrist recommended that he should be kept on 24 hours of observation. Pastor Wahid is still having those suicidal moods when he left the hospital. Therefore, the police authority did not allow him to return to his residence, but placed him in protected custody and put him in a straitjacket. Natasha was advised by the police not to contact or visit him in the place where he is kept. She suffered a lot during that temporary separation between them. In the meantime, she realized her hasty decision and knew it was too late. She blamed herself for rushing things and reacting emotionally rather than rationally. She knew that she was supposed to verify the allegation before fully believing it. She understood that her emotional reaction led her grandfather to take that drastic action by confronting Pastor Wahid inside the church and exposing him in front of his entire congregation. She made her lover bear the blame for her pregnancy alone. If she had not informed her grandfather about her conception, her boyfriend would not have been so humiliated and disgraced and made of a sudden to lose everything. She knew the damage that had been done to him by her hasty reaction was beyond remedy. She repeatedly asked herself how she could show her face to him if her grandfather found out what they heard about him was all lies and slanders. She spent long hours weeping and regretting her hasty decision. Many times, she is tempted to contact her lover many times, but she always remembers the restriction of the police authority. Dr. Shams al-Din spent 1 month in Sudan before he returned to Canada. During his visit, he made many inquiries about the background of Pastor Wahid. He went to that church in Khartoum and inquired about Pastor Wahid and his wife and their 2 children. The church pastor and the elders informed him that they had never heard about a family by that name. They told him further that they had never had a Muslim man converted to Christianity in their church. They also did not have among their congregation a woman and her 2 children who were former Muslims and became Christians. The pastor and the elders admitted that they used to have a Christian couple by the name of Majak and Malaika. That couple immigrated recently to Canada and settled in the city of Calgary. Those are the Christian couple who had been bribed by Sheikh Yasser Saif al-Din and spread those false slanders against Pastor Wahid. The information that Dr. Shams al-Din obtained from that church convinced him beyond a shadow of a doubt that Pastor Wahid is a victim of a very malicious conspiracy. He too felt guilty for the damage that his granddaughter and he had caused to Pastor Wahid. He knew that whatever apologies that they would offer to him, they would not be able to heal the deep wound that they inflicted in his heart and repair the damage that they caused to his reputation and ministry. Dr. Shams al-Din did not confine his investigation about the background of Pastor Wahid in the church, but he tried to trace his story from its roots. He went to the village of Shahaba and inquired about the Islamic name of Pastor Wahid, Omar Muhammad Ahmed. To his surprise, he found that no one had ever heard about a person by that name. The village was so small that everyone living in it was related to the others. Everyone in that village belonged to the tribe of the Shajia. The chief of the village informed Dr. Shams al-Din that they had never had a Jalaya family in their midst. The chief was shocked when Dr. Shams al-Din told him the person he was inquiring about was a Muslim who converted to Christianity. On hearing such incredible news, the chief told Dr. Shams al-Din that he had never heard in all his life that a Muslim left Islam and became a Christian. Then the chief lifted his hands to the sky and said loudly, "O Allah, do not let such an abomination happen in my village." That information puzzled Dr. Shams al-Din and made him to ask himself why Pastor Wahid lied about his place of birth. After leaving the village of Shahaba, Natasha's grandfather decided to visit Khartoum University and find out about Pastor Wahid's claim that he used to be a student in that university and a member of the terrorist group of the Muslim Brotherhood. Likewise, his inquiry at the university yielded nothing. The registrar of the university told him that there was no student by that name. A couple of students' names matched the name of Omar Muhammad Ahmed, but both finished their studies and left the university many years ago. The first one got graduated 19 years ago and the second one 30 years ago. So, Dr. Shams al-Din could not be able to find anything in that university to confirm the claim of Pastor Wahid. Once again, he was puzzled and, in his heart, wanted to know why Pastor Wahid was concealing his identity and making all those false claims about himself. He began to doubt even the claim of Pastor Wahid that he was born as a Muslim and converted to Christianity. Dr. Shams al-Din wrote down in his diary all his findings about Pastor Wahid Muhammad Ahmed. He carefully documented his inquiries in the church, the village of Shahaba, and the Khartoum University. He decided to share his findings with his granddaughter when he reaches Calgary and allow her to decide what she wants to do about her relationship with Pastor Wahid. But before he flew back to Canada, Dr. Shams al-Din visited the tombs of his beloved wife and their late daughter. He took flowers with him and placed them on the tombs of his beloved wife Nadia Alexandrov and his beloved daughter, Natasha Sami Shams al-Din. While he was standing before their tombs, the memories of their brutal murders assaulted him like a heart attack. His eyes poured down hot tears. His heart was filled with great indignation when he remembered that the man who caused their untimely death was living in the same city he was living in, and he could not do anything to him. While he was standing and remembering those sad days, Dr. Shams al-Din's attention was shifted from the sad past to the present reality. He was forced to make a comparison between the mistakes his junior Natasha made with her boyfriend in Canada and his senior Natasha committed with her abuser in Sudan. Both slept with their lovers out of the marriage bonds, and both were impregnated because of those lapses. Those mistakes happened in different times and different places. The senior Natasha was arrested, tried, and convicted of adultery by the Islamic Sharia court and punished in the cruelest way that the person would ever be punished. The mistake of the junior Natasha was not considered to be criminal in nature, and no one took her to court to sleep with her boyfriend before marriage. Dr. Shams al-Din was amazed by the two different cultures in which the two mistakes were committed by his daughter and granddaughter, which one was based on the Islamic Sharia law and the other on the Canadian secular law. Being an atheist and irreligious man, Dr. Shams al-Din could not be able to trace the sources of those two different laws. Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, established the law of forgiveness, and Muhammad, the founder of the Islamic Sharia law, created the law of punishment. History tells us that Jesus forgave an adulterous woman, whereas Muhammad stoned her to death. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "If any one of you is without sin, let him be the first to throw a stone at her." And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Then those who heard it, being convicted by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning with the oldest even to the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Jesus had raised himself up and saw only the woman, he said to her, "Woman, where are those accusers of yours? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said to her, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." The Gospel of John chapter 8, verses 3 to 11. Sulayman ibn Buraidah said, "A woman of Gamad, a branch of Azd, came to him and said, 'Messenger of Allah, purify me,' whereupon he said, 'Woe be upon you. Go back and beg forgiveness from Allah and turn to him in repentance.'" She said, "I find that you intend to send me back as you sent back Mize bin Malik." He, the holy prophet, said, "What has happened to you?" She said that she had become pregnant as a result of fornication. He, the holy prophet, said, "Is it you who has done that?" She said, "Yes." He, the holy prophet, said to her, "You will not be punished until you deliver what is there in your womb." One of the Ansar became responsible for her until she was delivered of the child. He, that Ansari, came to Allah's apostle, may peace be upon him, and said, "The woman of Gamad has given birth to a child." He, the holy prophet, said, "In that case, we shall not stone her and so leave her infant with nothing to suckle him." One of the Ansar got up and said, "Allah's apostle, let the responsibility of his suckling be upon me." She was then stoned to death. Sahih Muslim, Book 17, Hadith number 4206. Chapter 33. Reconciliation and Engagement. During his absence, Natasha missed her grandfather so much. She did not remember once in her life that she lived away from him for so long. He is everything to her, a father, mother, brother, sister, and very dear friend. He is the only relative she has. No one ever loves her the way her grandfather loves her. From childhood, he took care of her. He changed her diapers and fed her in her mouth like the bird feeds its little one. He carried her in his arms and put her on his shoulders when she was a little girl. He sacrificed his married life and remained unmarried to dedicating all his time and fortune for her proper upbringing and well-being. He put her in the best school while they were in Addis Ababa, and when she grew up, he took her to the best country in the world. He spent hours with her in the house and taught her her mother tongue, the Arabic language, and her grandmother tongue, the Russian language. He hired private tutors to teach her at home the official languages of Ethiopia, namely Amharic and Tigrinya. The school that he sent her to study was extremely expensive and meant for foreign students. In that prestigious school, she learned the two international languages, English and French. Natasha is so proud of her grandfather and revered him like her godfather and worshipped him as her sacred idol. She did not share her heart and love with anyone until Pastor Wahid came into her life. In a short period, she began to love him so much. Sadly, that malicious rumor overnight transformed her lover from an angel into a demon, from a lover to a cheater, and from a successful pastor to a fallen religious leader. She did not only feel she had been cheated by him, but betrayed and disgraced by his friendship. Although Natasha is irreligious, she is aware of the importance of honor among her Sudanese people. She concluded that she disgraced the name of her grandfather among his people by becoming pregnant before marriage. She understood that she would hold herself guilty forever if the allegation against her boyfriend turned out to be true. But if he is proved innocent, then the consequences would be dire for her and her grandfather. For that reason, Natasha is holding herself responsible for destroying the religious ministry of her lover and forcing him to make an attempt to kill himself. Many times, she is tempted to find out where he is and ask him to forgive her. While Natasha was struggling with those worries, her grandfather returned to her with the happiest news that she ever heard. She came to know that Pastor Wahid is innocent of that malicious rumor. She learned that he had no wife or children in that church in Khartoum. On hearing that news, Natasha's heart is filled with righteous wrath against the Sudanese Christian couple who had created that malicious rumor. She wished in her heart that those wicked people would get a severe punishment for their crime of the character assassination of her dear lover. On the same day, Natasha and her grandfather went to the police and lodged a complaint against that Christian couple who spread lies about an innocent person. In their complaint, they accused Majak and Malaika of committing a crime of character defamation of Natasha's fiancé. Although Dr. Shams Aldin told his granddaughter that Pastor Wahid lied to them about his place of birth, family, and study, still Natasha said to him she is not worried about that. She is extremely happy that her boyfriend is innocent of the rumor of being a Muslim and has a wife and 2 children in Sudan. She then said to her grandfather that she does not care whether Pastor Wahid was born in Sudan or not, whether he was a Muslim before or not. What she cared about is his innocence of the nasty rumor. Since her grandfather is the one who traveled all the way from Calgary to Khartoum and found out that her lover has no wife or children, she decided not to worry about anything else. Moreover, Natasha requested her grandfather not to mention to anyone that Pastor Wahid lied about his place of birth, family, and study in Sudan. She considered it a personal issue. She understood that for the time being what Pastor Wahid needs is her love to help him to overcome those suicidal thoughts. Through the police authority, Natasha and Dr. Shams al-Din came to know that Pastor Wahid was released from that protected custody, and at present, he is living with his friend in his apartment. From the police officers, they went directly to the place where he is staying and broke the good news to him. Pastor Wahid has become exceedingly glad to hear that his beloved Natasha and her grandfather came to know that he is not a married man and having a wife and children in Sudan. Then his beloved girlfriend apologized 100 times to him and begged him to forgive her for the damage that she caused to his reputation. Pastor Wahid told her that he never held her responsible for what had happened to him. He assured her that every girl in her place would have reacted the same way she reacted, and every grandfather would have done what Dr. Shams al-Din had done. That day, Natasha and her grandfather invited Pastor Wahid for dinner in their house. Natasha is the one who prepares all the food. She could cook a variety of dishes. During her stay in Ethiopia, she learned to prepare many African dishes. Pastor Wahid said it is the most delicious food that he ever ate in his life. After the dinner, Pastor Wahid asked Natasha in front of her grandfather whether she still loves him and ready to marry him. When she replied in the affirmative, Pastor Wahid asked her guardian to give him the hand of his granddaughter in marriage. Her grandfather gladly accepted the proposal of his granddaughter and acquiesced. After that wonderful reconciliation between the two lovers and their official engagement, Dr. Shams al-Din went to the church and talked to the elders about the false rumor that was spread against Pastor Wahid. He told them that he traveled to Khartoum and met with the pastor and the elders of the church, which the Christian Sudanese couple claimed that Pastor Wahid has an ex-Muslim wife and children in it. He found out that it is a mere malicious conspiracy created by some wicked people to defame Pastor Wahid. The elders of the church appreciated the efforts of Dr. Shams al-Din and promised to accept Pastor Wahid back as a believer, but not a pastor. They believe what he had done with Natasha before marrying her wouldn't allow them to accept him as a leader. If he is still interested in serving in the church as one of the brethren, they will give him that chance. But when Pastor Wahid received the letter of acceptance from his former church, he apologized and asked them to give him time to pray about it. The entire Sudanese community in Calgary came to know that Pastor Wahid has been cleared from that malicious rumor. Natasha authored an article about the good news and published it in one of the widely read newspapers. She even has mentioned in the article of the newspaper her engagement with Pastor Wahid and their soon-coming marriage. Some fanatic Christian brothers and sisters in those immigrant two churches, the Sudanese church and Arabic church, where he used to pastor still, are not willing to forgive Pastor Wahid for what he did with Natasha Shams al-Din. For them, he would remain sinner forever because he committed the unpardonable sin of adultery with a member of the sheep of his Sudanese congregation. It seems the biblical concepts of forgiveness and restoration don't exist in those born-again believers' vocabulary. Pastor Wahid returned to his former Canadian church, not as a pastor, but as an ordinary member. The elders of the church accepted him back and treated him with the same respect they used to show towards him before.